It's such a pleasure to be here this morning. There's nothing I love more than working with marketers and hearing their stories and what they're up to every day. As a matter of fact, that's my job. My job is to go out and work with some of our higher profile clients and then spend all my time in the market. So it is a pleasure to be with you today. And before I get started on my presentation, I also want to give a shout out to all of you. Why? I have a real issue with the way we are training marketers today, because in fact, it's not even happening, right? So the fact that all of you took your time from your very busy schedules because you're curious, because you're driven, because you have a hunger to learn and grow, you are going to be the professionals that are going to lead us into the future. So you guys all get a big shout out for being here, right? Okay. So does anybody play golf? Nobody's hand went up. No, okay, we got one person that plays golf. So the idea of this presentation is something I call the CMOs Mulligan. So about 2 years ago, I wrote an article, I think it might have been from Martech Today. And what I was thinking about is, you know, the CMOs had it really hard. There's a lot of things they have to do. Yet it seems that whenever marketing operations really begins to rise in prominence, the CMO becomes a little bit more successful. So I started calling marketing operations the CMOs Mulligan. And what I want to do with you guys today is I want to talk about some marketing mulligans and kind of what that means, because my sense is that many of you probably need to take a mulligan. And a mulligan is just a do-over. And it's a do-over because the first time you did it, it was so bad, right? So you get a mulligan. We will also take a look at, is it time for you to take a mulligan? We're going to do an impromptu survey because I want you to see where you are in your maturity, and we're just going to crowdsource that so you can see where your peers are, and then I'll share some research so you can kind of assess where you are in the market. And I have two lovely helpers from Veracode. I've got Laura and I've got Melanie. So when you raise your hands, they're going to kind of just, you know, a third, a half, a quarter, something like that. And then we'll publish a blog afterwards to talk about what we do and how we do it. And then finally, I'll really pull it all together by talking about not just marketing operations, but strategic marketing operations, okay? So you ready? All right. Let me begin with my story. Oh my God, I had a mulligan. I had to take a mulligan one time. It was painful, but let me tell you about that. So in 2004, I was the vice president of marketing for a small company in Atlanta, Georgia, that sold really big systems to really, really big people. And I had been on board for about 6 months. My marketing plan, you know, I had it all laid out. And then one day, my CEO comes into my office. We had offices back then, you know. And he sat down in the chair right across from my desk, and he looks me straight in the eye, and he says, "Debbie, what are you going to do about revenue?" Well, I just started laughing. You know, I said, "You know, it says VP of Marketing on that door out there." He says, "I understand." He said, "But, you know, given that you've got a background in sales, help us, you know, see what you can do." So I went out into the market, did a little bit of research, and I found Eloqua. And at the time, there was nothing else like Eloqua in the market. So we scheduled a demo, and, you know, a demo. And we showed up, and I'm going to tell you, I remember everything about that meeting. I was so blown away by this technology that I was seeing. But I wasn't blown away so much by the technology as I was about what that technology was going to do to marketing. I literally was looking at a technology that was going to redefine what it meant to be a marketer. And I just remember everything about that meeting. And if we fast forward to today, since 2004, I have had a front row seat to all the changes and all the dynamics that happen in marketing. First from, being a consultant and being a partner at the Pedowitz Group, and even in academia, because my dissertation was all about how the B2B CMO adopts financial accountability. And through all of those observations and all of that research, I can tell you two things. I can tell you the bad, and I can tell you the good. Let's start with the bad, then we'll just go up from there. The bad news is that CMOs' responsibilities continue to expand. In 2004, I had a revenue number on my head as the VP of Marketing. Today, it's not just revenue, it's also the pivot to customer centricity, and it's also leading digital transformation. I mean, these are weighty, game-changing responsibilities that the CMO has. And they are struggling. Not only are they struggling, they are stuck. And I'll give you two pieces of information about that. We released a report in January, February, March of this year. We'd been collecting data around, the maturity of the market through all of our clients. And we went to analyze it because we were going to just do collate and do a report on it. And I'm sitting there talking with my VP of Marketing, and I said, I don't know what to do with this because really nothing's changed in 4 years. And he said, well, right about that. He said, the marketing is stuck, and it is stuck in many ways. But the good news is this, and I truly believe this, and if you are a marketer, and everybody in here is a marketer, or you're in sales, there has never been a more incredible opportunity to be a marketer and to be part of a marketing organization than right here, absolutely today. So we have some bad news, and we have some good news. So how do we actually reconcile those two things? How can we be struggling so much, and yet we have the most opportunity that we've ever had before? And one more item about the bad. When I did my dissertation, it was all about that gap. CMOs have all this pressure for revenue, and yet only about a third actually report any financial measures. I was so scared in the 3 years that gap was going to close. It did not move. But the way you reconcile that good and the bad is you have to take a marketing mulligan. You guys know the definition of crazy. Doing the same thing over and over, the same way, and expecting a different result. Folks, it is time to reimagine marketing. You cannot keep doing things the same way. And your marketing mulligan has everything to do with marketing operations. I have been a revenue marketer since 2004. And I've always believed in the power that marketing can bring, especially today with all of the data that we have. And for marketing not to have a seat and a voice at the table is ridiculous. So when we talk about a marketing mulligan, it's you. It's you reframing and rethinking what your marketing organization could and should be. An opportunity for a do-over to increase revenue, to do digital transformation and customer centricity through strategic marketing ops. So I'll talk about marketing ops, and I'll also talk about strategic marketing ops because there is a world of difference. And actually, at our booth, my next book is coming out in February, and it's about strategic marketing ops and how it helps the CMO, with that do-over. But before we get into that, we're going to have some audience participation. So what I want to find out in the next, 7, 8, 9, 10 minutes is, do you think it's time for you to take your marketing mulligan? What's going on in your organization? So I'm going to ask you a few questions. Okay, can everybody raise their left hand? Everybody. It doesn't hurt, does it? Didn't hurt? Raise your right hand. That didn't hurt either, right? Okay, so Laura and Melanie are going to be keeping count, and again, just general. So let's begin with a simple question. Everybody can get it. How many people in here are not morning people? I'm so sorry. You must just want to slap me right now. I just love the morning. I have the most energy in the morning. How many B2B marketers in here today? Raise them high. Okay, you might have to stand up and turn around, okay? All right, how many B2C? Other or some combination? How about sales? No doubts. You know everybody sells, right? Okay, so we kind of know our audience. That's good. All right, next question. How many people have a dedicated marketing operations group? Raise your hand. High. All right, you got to be looking, okay? Now, if I had asked that question a year ago, do you know how many hands would have gone up? About half as many. About 59% of all B2B marketing organizations now have marketing ops as a dedicated function. How many people in here actually work in the marketing operations department? Okay, got a good number. That is such a great career path. How many people have a revenue ops organization? You know, because that's going to be the next thing, and we'll talk about that too. How many people have never heard of marketing ops? We got a few, okay? And there are companies that, I don't even know how to get these words out of my mouth, that still don't recognize the value of marketing operations. We'll talk about that later. I have to be in a bar 2 drinks down to tell you those stories, okay? All right, so next question. How many people are in the midst of a digital transformation? Raise your hand. Okay, all right. How complete would you say that you are? How many people would say they're at least 33% complete on their digital transformation? Raise your hand. I knew you were going to raise your hand. You just got it all together. You know, the best marketers, you know, they come up here and they talk and they're like, wow, I just did this, this, and this, and it worked like magic, right? That's Evelyn. How many people are 34 to 66% complete through the digital transformation? We got some hands. I'm super impressed. Anybody 67 to 100%? Okay. Well, you know, digital transformation is very much a buzzword, and you hear it over and over and over, yet it is the single most important element to being a marketer. And whether we're talking about digital transformation for your marketing organization, or whether we're talking about digital transformation more broadly in the organization, the fact of the matter is you have to do this. And how well you do it will inform your career options. And I always have a few stats here. In a recent study with a group of executives, they said they were only about 25% complete through that entire digital transformation. 87% said digital transformation is going to give us competitive advantage. And we all know this to be true. And 27% said it's a matter of business survival. So what's interesting about the world that we live in is that for many of you, you began digital transformation even before your companies did. You know, if you were one of the early buyers of a marketing automation system and then began to do things with digital, you know, you were already accustomed to new processes and new ways of doing things. And quite often, you become a valuable part of the organization to help further inform larger digital transformation. Oh, you guys like this question, don't you? How many in here report ROI? Raise your hands high and be proud. Okay, all you people who did not raise your hand, you need to go talk to these people and find out how they did it. This is still one of the most challenging things for B2B marketers to do, even though we are drowning in technology. Less than a third actually report ROI. So we're about on par with that. How many people have a pipeline contribution requirement? Raise your hand. Oh, I love that. I remember like in 2009, I was somewhere doing a talk, and from day one, I've always asked if people had some kind of revenue requirement. And when I asked that question, you must have thought that I was speaking Sanskrit or something. It just did not equate to them at all, right? But today, that is a critical part. And as a matter of fact, about a third of organizations report contribution to pipeline. And it is the single most reported financial metric. Okay, how many have a direct revenue contribution? Raise your hand. Okay, that's a pretty good number. That's actually a very good number. How many people have a variable compensation tied to a revenue number? You guys look at how many hands are? This is the way it's going. You know, not only is marketing going to be responsible for some kind of MBO, compensation will be tied to your ability to drive revenue and your ability to drive growth. Only about a third of CMOs actually report direct revenue contribution, yet 85% of boards, senior executives, they just pound on your CMO every day, revenue, revenue, revenue. But here's kind of like the backstory to that. When a CMO does report revenue, quite often it is suspect. So how many people, oh, let me go back. Let me go see, how did we go back? Back, right. How many people do like up to 33% of revenue contribution of the company? Okay. Who does 34 to 66% revenue contribution from marketing? You know, it just thrills my heart to see those hands go up. Anybody 67 to 100%? We need to get some CEOs in here so they can hear this stuff. So let me make this statement. Even though only about a third of you currently report financial metrics in terms of revenue and in terms of pipeline, I promise you, you will have to do this in the future. There's no getting away from it. There's no pretending. There's no putting your head in the sand. This is the future of B2B marketing. This is a quote from my dissertation from the study. And this particular CMO said, financial accountability for the CMO is essential to drive that C spot at the table. With financial metrics accountability, the position of the CMO becomes boardroom relevant. This switches the focus from marketing being a nice to have, if we can afford it, to a true driver and a supporter of the company's revenue growth strategy. How many people are afraid of budget cuts because marketing is a cost center? Raise your hands. Okay, happens every single day. How many people are doing some kind of pivot toward customer centricity right now? Oh, come on, raise your hands. There's more people than that. This is like the thing now, right? And it should be, because if you think about it, it is all about the customers in control and they want instant everything. So it is the hallmark of any company. It is a go-to-market strategy that when you do it, companies are 60% more profitable. Customer centricity pays and it pays and it pays and it pays. All right, last question. Do you have a marketing credibility problem? If you do, raise your hand. Okay. Are we being honest? Come on, raise your hands high so we can see what the number is. Okay. Does that not just irritate the you-know-what out of you? You know, you've got the numbers, you work hard, and yet there is still a credibility issue. And there is. 64% of CMOs say they are challenged in demonstrating and getting these C-suite to believe what they're doing is actually real. So when you think about where you need to be, when you think about your ability for ROI, your ability for revenue, for pipeline, when you think about your ability to influence customer centricity, and when you think about your ability to lead digital transformation, how did you do? Did you give yourselves an A? A B? A C? There's a lot of work. So the question becomes, you know, is it time for you to take that mulligan? Well, let's add one more piece to the story, and that's the strategic marketing operations piece. So I saw my first marketing operations company about 2009. My business partner, Jeff, and I, we were working with the Boston Bruins, and they had a marketing operations group. I'm like, what? What is this, a marketing operations group that just does technology and marketing? Okay, it was really cool back in like 2009, and I just was so blown away by that. And since then, with this proliferation of technology, we have gone from organically growing marketing operations to it being very intentional. This is the story of Microsoft. In 2014, Microsoft was like many large companies, marketing technology everywhere, everybody go off and do whatever they want to do, right? And then around 2015, between 2016, they decided to make a change. And so what they did was they created a central marketing ops organization, and they really introduced the whole idea of revenue marketing to their entire organization, to all the 13 CMOs and all of the GOs and everywhere. As a result, they went from Lord knows where technology is and how somebody uses it to this beautiful stack. And this is a stack that they put together a year ago as part of the MarTech Stackies. And it is an absolute thing of beauty, because what it tells you is, number one, we're not going to let technology grow just like mushrooms. We're going to have a very intentional design for that technology and how all these pieces fit together. And for Microsoft, it was two things. It was revenue, and it was also customer centricity. New CEO, they needed to get back in the market, get more share. And again, you can go take a look at this on the MarTech website. But you can see that it integrates everything around the customer. This is all based on the customer journey. And their marketing ops team went from 0 to 100 people in about 9 months. And this was their job, to manage the stack, but also to work with all of marketing so they could drive revenue, and so they could drive customer centricity, and this was their digital transformation. Let's talk about regular versus strategic marketing ops. And I will say that what I'm about to show you, if you work in marketing ops, you might have a visceral reaction. I see that. Regular marketing ops, sorry to tell you, but you're button pushers. You are tactical, you are reactive, but you're very efficient and you're very effective. Those are the things you have going for you. But there's a new kind of marketing operations in town, and they are strategic because they act as business partners. They take a strategic line. They are proactive, and they are leaders, and they're extraordinarily customer-focused as well. So in this kind of marketing ops organization, they really lift marketing up to truly be all they can be. So let me give you 3 case studies of some companies and talk about where they are on their marketing operations journey. But we'll give you a model first, because if you know me, I can't do anything without a model, okay? As I'm going through this, let me know where you are, okay? So the first stage is you're unaware, and there are still a lot of marketing organizations that are unaware of the power and the need for marketing operations. Efficient is you do things very, very, very well. You can administer Marketo, you can tie things together, but you're really, you're in that zone right there, focused on that one thing, trying to make it better and better. Effective organizations begin to ask, are we doing the right things? Should we do things a different way? And in that kind of marketing ops organization, what you have is more leadership, and more leadership that helps marketing do a better job. A lot of times that happens through data, a lot of times that happens through process, but it is a big jump to go from being an efficient marketing ops team to an effective marketing ops team. And the last 2 stages, those are the most fun. The third stage is when you become customer-centric, and I'm telling you right now, being a customer-centric marketing ops organization looks very different than when you are not customer-focused. If you go back to the Microsoft stack, what they had was a flow of the entire customer life cycle and all the technologies connected. That means if marketing wants to buy something, well, can they use it in another part of the organization along that customer journey? And then the last one is what I call next gen. Next gen is going to be revenue operations. Next gen is going to be when you reorganize your company because you can't get line of sight as long as you are in silos, okay? 3 case studies. Now, this is SAP, and this is a very interesting story, and I like to show org charts because I think structure follows strategy, right? What speaks more eloquently than a reorganization to support a strategy? And so, of course, SAP is a very large organization, and the Global Marketing Ops organization just reorganized to be in line with how sales is organized so they could be closer to understanding relationships and revenue. And at SAP, marketing is responsible for 20% of the pipeline. At companies like SAP Concur, which is actually getting a Rev Masters Award tonight, they were responsible for 50% of the revenue. And they could not have done that without the power of a marketing ops organization. And here you've got, you can see where the parallels are between what's happening in the field and what's happening in corporate. And much like Microsoft at SAP, you had technology and people everywhere, and now they have consolidated that and then aligned to the sales motion so that they can actually impact revenue. So they're very much moving from that efficient stage to that effective stage, because part of what they're having to do is to take a look at the lead management processes and just make sure that, that really works. The next one is, this is a company called Verint, and they're based in Atlanta, Georgia. And this is, their head of marketing ops is Dan Brown. And Dan's charter is to improve the efficiency and effectiveness of marketing ops to enable marketing in the company to obtain operational and strategic goals. I've watched Dan for about 5 years now, and his operation has gone from efficient to effective to customer-centric. They're responsible about 30% of the pipeline, and the team actually does have a revenue number. They don't at SAP, but they do at Verint. And what's really important about this story is that Verint for a long time was product. And when they decided to pivot to be more customer-focused from the CEO down, Dan and his team were ready. And for the first time, marketing ops got elevated into making or being part of strategic decisions versus being told what to do. So that is a great story. And then finally, the next gen. This is a company called Cisco, SYSCO. This is a revenue ops organization, and they took sales enablement, customer support, and they took marketing ops, and they put those together. And it began as just sales ops and marketing ops, and then they added customer service ops. And two things. Number one, incredible line of sight to the customer. You will see more reorganizations like this. And then it can be owned by anybody. Here it's owned by the COO. I've seen this be owned by the head of marketing, and I've seen it being owned by the head of sales. But that is the future. So your ability to have an effective, customer-centric marketing ops organization is part of the future of your organization. And as professionals, you have to align and help that company drive their business. Key takeaways: marketing is stuck. You will not be saved by a shiny new toy. Structure follows strategy. 59% of companies have dedicated marketing ops. Too often, marketing ops are button pushers. You've got to have strategic marketing ops. And again, I've written like 100 articles on it, and we can give you all kinds of information about it. But my last point to you is this: do you want to continue to be button pushers? Or are you ready to become a proactive, strategic, and valued business partner to marketing and your company? Thank you.